Good morning, everyone. This is our 30th, my goodness, guidepost, and it's based on a poem that I wrote called I Ching. I wrote it in 2018. And for those of you who don't know, that's the book of Tibetan book of changes, the I Ching. But I also was inspired to write this by a beautiful song by George Harrison, "The Light That Has Lighted the World." I don't know if you're aware of the album "Living in the Material World." It's one of my favourite albums of all time. So "The Light That Has Lighted the World" inspired this, and it's called I Ching. The changeless and the changing. Can I rely on you to be the same forever? Or like the sand, will you meet the blue? Will you have changed when I next meet you? Are you growing just like me? Does the desert meet the ocean, or are you content just to be? I didn't shipwreck my faith. My faith has grown and changed. I may not think like you. My heart is rearranged. And yet the one thing that remains is the love within my heart. It's the universal constant, and it's where we can restart. The friendship that we knew when we both subscribed to the same religion before I took the morning tide and sailed off to a different place and grew, not fell away. So I ask, has your faith grown, even if it has been in that same old way? The changeless and the changing, can I rely on you to be the same forever? Or like the sand, will you meet the blue? The song, the George Harrison song, starts, some people have said how I've changed, how I'm not what I was, how it really is a shame. The thoughts in their heads manifest on their brows like bad scars to ill feeling. They themselves arouse, so hateful of anyone who's happy or free. They live all their lives without trying to see the light that has lighted the world. And I was thinking of a particular lady who was at church many years ago with me, and she said I'd made a shipwreck of my faith to a friend of mine. Oh, Andrew, he's made a shipwreck of his faith. And so it was kind of in line with what George had said, and then remembering that this person had said that I'd made a shipwreck of my faith. And I don't see it like that. I just see that my faith evolved. You know, I still am a man of faith, but I don't believe what we used to believe together. And it's like a challenge to everyone. Are you really saying that you don't change? This is I Ching, the book of changes. Are you saying that you never change, that you never grow, that you're just the same as you always were? And for me, that if the answer is yes, I'm sad that you're not actually growing. So it's a challenge for us all. The poem is a challenge for us all to be constantly growing, becoming more aware of different things that we haven't considered before. And I've been listening last night to a book that a lady's written about spending a week, I think it is, with Sadhguru, and saying how that has changed her outlook on life. And so, yeah, any thoughts on changes this morning?
I have. I feel like there's a few things there. It's like if you constantly never change, if you never change, it's a choice. If you're happy with your life, you don't want to change. In effect, that's a change in itself, because you're choosing to be the same. So, but you can't possibly absolutely be the same. Something changes within your life because you can't, because you are creating it. So if somebody comes to you and says something, it might actually make you think differently, and that's a slight change there. There's a slight change. You might not change where you live, or what school you go to, or college you go to, or you know, what your life presents on a daily basis. You might choose not to change that way, but slightly, you're changing every day. But when you make massive changes, and I you know, like sort of the sort that my friends say to me, you're not the same. You're not, you know, you're not the same. Then I respect my friends to stay where they are because that's their choice. But they should also respect my choice to change. And if that is a rapid, massive change in their eyes, then so be it. Because ultimately, your friendship shouldn't rely on, or perhaps it does in a lot of cases, but if the heart and the love of each other is still there, then the friendship's still there, in my opinion.
That's great. Karen, have you got anything you can share on change? I know things have been changing for you.
I agree. And we're changing in every moment, you know, as life is flowing through us. That's the flow of energy.
Yeah.
So it's changing on a level in ourselves, you know, and that kind of radiates through our body. But also, I agree with Catherine, you know, the person I was 4 years ago isn't the person I am now, and the person I was yesterday isn't the person I was now. But it's just how others perceive the change within you internally. I mean, I had a conversation last night with someone. It was so expansive. It was as if something really shifted in me, and my outlook within minutes had completely changed. You know, my thoughts and perception of reality had changed yet again. It's never the same. And I think you've said this, Catherine, literally you can go to bed with one truth. It might have been you, it might have been somebody else, I can't remember. But basically what your truth is when you go to bed one day and you wake up in the morning, the truth can be completely different, what you perceive as truth. And yeah, that's how I feel this morning. We were having a conversation about what is possible and what's available to you, and it's only your mind that stops you. And we got into universal laws and how we can't see universal laws. They're just there in the ether, they're not tangible, whereas you can see things like gravity. But once you start to understand and embody universal law, you experience it, you know what's possible. So that's a big change.
Yeah, I think that it's much easier if you are open to change. I think that's where it starts, this journey. For me, I think it's good to have a good foundation in your life, and I did have a good foundation. Everything was certain around me. I know that some kids grow up and they pass from pillar to post, they know nothing. I had my grandparents with me when my parents weren't around, and I always knew that I was loved and thought highly of, and it does help to have that. But if you can't then start growing from that firm planting, that firm foundation, then what was the point of the firm foundation in the first place? So when it comes to my own attitude to change, I like to think that I am open-minded, that I am willing to consider things that probably in the past I would have been, no, you know, that's a bridge too far for me. But I'm more inquisitive. I think it's good to be inquisitive because you may hear things other people are saying, or you may observe things that you couldn't see before. It's a bit like when the first people from Europe went to America, they'd never seen a sailing ship before, and people were describing it on the beach as something other than what it was. It was a sea dragon that was coming, and everybody needed to be frightened. And then there was just one person who had an open mind and said, no, that's a vessel, you know, like we go fishing in. It's just a much bigger one and it's coming to shore. So if you're willing to have your mind expanded, the mind always seems to get in the way, doesn't it? It's always the thing that stops the heart from being and the spirit from being all it can be, because, oh, well, that can't be right, because I remember with, say that again,
disagree there. I'm going to disagree there.
Good, good.
I used to see the mind as being the issue, but having a conversation last night, I actually realised that mind, depending on how you feed it, can make it conceptualize things and embody, give you more understanding, and that can be expansive as well.
Maybe I'm using the wrong word here then, not mind, but set ways of thinking. That's what stops you from, I think to open your mind is a big deal, because once the sand starts shifting and you can't rely on the things that were to be relied on before, it's like the ground has just moved away from you, and if you can't fly, you're going to sink. So unless you have that,
I think that. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
I think that once you actually know that it's okay to be wrong, then that makes a big difference, because just opening up to being wrong is really opening up to change, because it's like when you think of being wrong as a sort of, oh, okay, that's where I was, and now you know, today I realized that I was you know, that's wrong, I've changed. That's so, but so many people get stuck in the ways, like with anything, just like get stuck. They don't want to be wrong. It's not so much just change. They have this thing that they stick, you know, they just don't want to be wrong, and it's okay to be wrong.
Dog new tricks,
sort of.
So yeah, the poem itself came out of the George Harrison song, saying that there are those in his life that don't like the fact that he's not a Liverpool lad anymore, that he's into all this Eastern mysticism, and he's feeling quite sad about that they're not willing for me to change it. It's not whether they want themselves to change, but they're not willing to be open to change. They are sticking the mud, and unfortunately, we all have people like that in our lives as we've taken this journey that we're on, that have seen it as an affront to their certainty of this is the way to live your life. And because of that, there's sadness there for me. And I didn't want to get on I don't think the poem does get on the soapbox and browbeat people with, I'm just making observations, I think. My intention is to make observations in the poem. I think I'm going to read it again and close the broadcast. If you can hang around afterwards, great. If you can't, that's fine. So this is I Ching. The changeless and the changing. Can I rely on you to be the same forever? Or like the sand, will you meet the blue? Will you have changed when I next meet you? Or are you growing just like me? Does the desert meet the ocean? Or are you content just to be? I didn't shipwreck my faith. My faith has grown and changed. I may not think like you. My heart is rearranged. And yet the one thing that remains is the love within my heart. It's the universal constant. It's where we can restart. The friendship that we knew when we both subscribed to the same religion before I took the morning tide and sailed off to a different place and grew, not fell away. So I ask you, has your faith grown, even if it's been in that same old way? The changeless and the changing, can I rely on you to be the same forever? Or like the sand, will you meet the blue? Namaste.